A heartless CEO fires a struggling single mother without a second thought. Months later, he finds her 8-year-old daughter desperately selling her beloved pink bicycle outside his mansion to save her dying mother's life. What secret connects their past? Will justice come before it's too late? A story of redemption, shocking truths, and a little girl's unconditional love that will change everything. Like if you believe in second chances and comment what you would do in this situation. The autumn wind carried the scent of freshly cut grass across the manicured lawns of Riverside Estates, where mansions stood like monuments to success. Marcus Chen's black Tesla glided silently through the iron gates of his property, the sunset casting golden streaks across his windshield. At 42, he had built TechVision Solutions from a garage startup into a $300 million empire. His reflection in the rearview mirror showed a man who had conquered every challenge through ruthless efficiency and unwavering focus. As his garage door began to open, something unusual caught his attention. A small figure stood on the sidewalk just beyond his property line, next to a pink bicycle that seemed to glow in the fading light. Marcus frowned, his jaw tightening. He had purchased this home specifically for its privacy and security. Solicitors and children selling school fundraisers were supposed to be stopped at the main gate. He stepped out of his car, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the concrete. The child was a girl, no more than 8 years old, with dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She wore a faded purple jacket over a dress that had seen better days. Her small hands gripped a handmade cardboard sign, the letters written in uneven crayon. "Pink bike for sale, $500, please help my mom." "You shouldn't be here," Marcus said, his voice sharp and businesslike. "This is private property. Where are your parents?" The little girl looked up at him with eyes that seemed far too old for her face, red-rimmed and puffy from crying. Her lower lip trembled as she tried to speak. I'm not on your property, sir. I checked. I'm on the sidewalk. That's public, right?" Marcus felt a flash of irritation mixed with grudging surprise at her precision. "That's not the point. It's almost dark. You shouldn't be out here alone. What's your name?" "Emma," she whispered, clutching her sign tighter. "Emma Rodriguez. And I have to be here. I have to sell my bike today." "Please, sir, do you want to buy it? It's a really good bike. I got it for my 7th birthday. The gears work perfect, and it has a basket and streamers and everything." The desperation in her small voice made Marcus pause despite himself. He glanced at the bicycle. It was indeed well maintained, probably worth more than $500 when new. The pink paint gleamed, and the white basket attached to the handlebars still had a small stuffed bear strapped inside. "Where's your mother, Emma?" he asked, his tone softening slightly despite his best efforts to remain detached. Emma's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. She's sick. Really, really sick. We need money for her medicine, and the doctors, and I don't have anything else to sell. Please, sir, please buy my bike. It's my favorite thing in the whole world, but I have to save my mom." Something uncomfortable twisted in Marcus's chest, a feeling he had trained himself to ignore in boardrooms and during layoff meetings. He had built his success on making hard decisions without emotional interference. Sentiment was a luxury that cost companies millions. "I don't need a bicycle," he said firmly. "I suggest you go home before it gets dark. Your mother is probably worried about you." "But she doesn't know I'm here." Emma's voice rose in panic. "She's in the hospital. Mrs. Chen from next door is supposed to be watching me, but she fell asleep and I snuck out because I have to do something. I can't just sit there while my mom—" Her words died in a sob, and she pressed her small fists against her eyes. Marcus stood frozen, his hand halfway to his car door. Mrs. Chen, the old woman who lived in the modest duplex 3 blocks away. He had met her once at a neighborhood association meeting years ago. "What's your mother's full name?" he heard himself ask. Emma looked up, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "Jennifer Rodriguez. She used to work in an office before she got sick. She was really good at her job. She always told me how important it was to work hard and help people." The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. Jennifer Rodriguez, the woman he had fired 6 months ago during a restructuring initiative. She had worked in his human resources department, processing benefits and handling employee concerns. He remembered the meeting clearly now. She had been pale, distracted, making mistakes in paperwork. When she had requested reduced hours, he had seen only reduced productivity. The decision to let her go had taken him exactly 30 seconds. Marcus's mind raced through the implications. If Jennifer had been sick even then, losing her job would have meant losing her health insurance. And if she had been too proud or too afraid to tell anyone the full extent of her illness. Emma, he said carefully, his throat suddenly tight. What kind of sick is your mother? The little girl's face transformed into something that would haunt Marcus for the rest of his life, hope mixed with unbearable fear. The doctors say she has something wrong with her kidneys. They're not working right anymore. She needs, I don't know the word, something where they have to clean her blood at the hospital 3 times every week. But it costs so much money, and we don't have insurance anymore, and the hospital says they can't keep doing it for free, and dialysis. Marcus interrupted, the medical term feeling like ashes in his mouth. She needs dialysis. Yes, Emma's eyes widened. Do you know about it? Can you help? Please, sir, I'll give you my bike, and I have $17 in my piggy bank, and I can do chores for you, and how long has she been sick? Marcus cut her off, already pulling out his phone. I don't know exactly. She started feeling bad last year, but she said it was just being tired from work. Then, after she lost her job, she got worse really fast. She tried to hide it from me, but I heard her crying at night. And then 2 months ago, she collapsed, and the ambulance came, and everything got really scary. Last year, the timeline slammed into Marcus with brutal clarity. Jennifer Rodriguez had been struggling with the early stages of kidney disease while working for him. The performance issues he had documented had likely been symptoms of her deteriorating health. The reduced hours she had requested would have been for medical appointments, and when he had terminated her employment with cold efficiency, he had essentially signed her death warrant by removing her access to affordable health care. Marcus's hand tightened around his phone until his knuckles turned white. His entire body felt cold despite the warm evening air. He had built his fortune on decisive action and forward thinking, but he had never, not once, considered that his decisions might have consequences beyond spreadsheets and profit margins. Emma, he said, forcing his voice to remain steady, I'm going to help your mother, but first, I need you to tell me exactly which hospital she's at. The little girl's face exploded with joy and relief so pure that Marcus had to look away. St. Mary's Medical Center, room 412. Oh, thank you, sir. You're like a superhero. My mom always said that good people exist if you just ask for help, and she was right. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. Good people. He had fired this child's mother without a second thought, had taken away her health care during a life-threatening illness, had created the desperation that drove an 8-year-old to sell her most precious possession on a stranger's sidewalk. Go back to Mrs. Chen's house right now, he instructed, his executive voice returning. I'll make some calls, and Emma, keep your bicycle. You're going to need it. Emma's eyes filled with fresh tears, but these were different. She threw her arms around Marcus's waist in a tight hug that lasted only seconds but felt like an eternity. Then she grabbed her bike and began pedaling away, the streamers on the handlebars fluttering in the wind. Just before she turned the corner, she looked back and waved, her smile brighter than the fading sunset. Marcus stood alone on his perfect driveway, staring at his perfect mansion, feeling nothing but hollow shame. He pulled up his contacts and found his personal physician's number, then his lawyer's, then his accountant's. There would be calls to make, strings to pull, money to move. He could fix this. He had the resources, the connections, the power. But as he looked at the spot where Emma had stood with her cardboard sign, one question burned in his mind with terrifying intensity. How many other Jennifer Rodriguezes were out there? How many lives had his efficient, profitable decisions destroyed? And more haunting still, what if there was something about Jennifer Rodriguez that he didn't know? Something that would make this entire nightmare even worse than he could imagine. His phone buzzed with an incoming email, a routine report from his HR department about employee satisfaction scores. Marcus deleted it without reading and walked into his house, already planning his next move. Tomorrow, everything would change. He would make sure Jennifer Rodriguez got the treatment she needed. He would personally oversee her care. He would do whatever it took to fix the damage he had caused. But tonight, for the first time in his adult life, Marcus Chen couldn't sleep, because somewhere in St. Mary's Medical Center, a dying woman had no idea that the man who had destroyed her life was about to walk back into it, and neither of them knew the truth that would shatter everything. The fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Medical Center hummed with sterile indifference as Marcus stepped off the elevator onto the 4th floor. He had arrived at 6:47 a.m., deliberately early, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing one of his most expensive suits like armor. The night had been endless, hours spent researching kidney disease, dialysis costs, and the grim statistics of uninsured patients in America. Each article, each heartbreaking number, had felt like a personal indictment. Room 412 was at the end of a long corridor that smelled of antiseptic and recycled air. Through the small window in the door, Marcus could see a woman lying in the hospital bed, her face turned toward the window. Even from this distance, even weakened by illness, he recognized Jennifer Rodriguez. She had been 37 when he fired her, though stress and sickness had aged her beyond those years. Her dark hair, which he vaguely remembered being pulled back in a professional bun, now lay limply across the pillow. An IV drip stood sentinel beside her bed, and the steady beep of a heart monitor provided a rhythmic reminder of her fragile hold on life. Marcus raised his hand to knock, then hesitated. What words could possibly make this right? What explanation could justify what he had done? He had spent his entire career believing that business decisions existed in a separate realm from human consequences. Now, standing outside this hospital room, that comfortable delusion lay in ruins. Before he could knock, the door opened from inside. A tired-looking nurse with kind eyes and graying hair nearly walked into him. "Oh, excuse me," she said. Then her professional smile faltered as she took in his expensive suit and obvious discomfort. "Are you family?" "No, I'm here to see Jennifer Rodriguez. My name is Marcus Chen." The nurse's expression shifted to something cooler, more guarded. "Are you the gentleman who called Dr. Morrison at 6 o'clock this morning?" "Yes. I wanted to discuss Ms. Rodriguez's treatment options and—" "Mr. Chen," the nurse interrupted gently but firmly, "I need to tell you something before you go in there. Jennifer Rodriguez is a proud woman. She's been dealing with this illness with more dignity and strength than most people could manage. She doesn't know you called. She doesn't know you're here. And she's terrified that she's going to leave her daughter alone in this world." Marcus felt his throat constrict. "I understand. I'm here to help. I have the resources to—" "Resources are important," the nurse said, her eyes searching his face with unsettling intensity. "But this woman doesn't need charity that makes her feel smaller. She needs to know that people see her as a human being who matters. Can you do that, Mr. Chen?" The question landed like a punch. Could he? Did he even know how? "I'll try," he said quietly. The nurse studied him for another long moment, then nodded and stepped aside. "She's awake. And fair warning, she's sharp as a tack, even on her bad days. Don't underestimate her." Marcus entered the room with the same trepidation he had once felt before his first $1 million investor pitch. Jennifer Rodriguez turned her head as he approached, and recognition flickered across her face, followed immediately by confusion, then a flash of something that might have been fear or anger or both. "Mr. Chen," she said, her voice hoarse but steady, "this is unexpected." He pulled a chair closer to her bed, his carefully prepared opening remarks evaporating. "Ms. Rodriguez, if you're here to discuss the severance package I was promised and never received, I'm afraid you're 6 months too late and in the wrong venue for that conversation," she interrupted, a hint of her former professional demeanor emerging despite her obvious weakness. Marcus felt heat rise to his face. Even the severance package. He had signed off on eliminating it during budget cuts, reducing it from 6 weeks of pay to nothing for employees terminated during restructuring. "I'm not here about severance," he said. "I'm here because I met your daughter yesterday evening, Emma." Jennifer's entire body stiffened, her eyes widening with sudden fear. "Emma? What happened? Is she okay? Where is she?" "She's fine," Marcus said quickly, raising his hands in a calming gesture. "She's safe, but she was. She was trying to sell her bicycle outside my house, to raise money for your medical treatment." The color drained from Jennifer's face, leaving her looking even more fragile against the white hospital linens. Her hands gripped the bedsheet with surprising strength. "No, no, no, no. Please tell me you're lying. Please tell me my 8-year-old daughter wasn't out there alone begging strangers for money. Please, God." Her voice broke, and tears began streaming down her face with devastating silence. Marcus had seen people cry in his office before, employees he had fired, partners whose contracts he had terminated. He had always remained unmoved, believing that emotion was the enemy of sound business judgment. But watching Jennifer Rodriguez cry, knowing that his decisions had led directly to this moment, to her daughter's desperation, to this woman's complete collapse of dignity, something fundamental shifted inside him. "She wasn't begging," Marcus said softly. "She was trying to save you. She's an incredibly brave little girl." "She's a child," Jennifer choked out. "She should be playing with her bike, not selling it. She should be worrying about homework and friends, not whether her mother is going to die. How did it come to this? How did I let it get this bad?" This isn't your fault, Marcus said, the words feeling inadequate even as he spoke them. Jennifer's head snapped toward him, her eyes blazing with sudden fury despite her tears. Isn't it? I'm her mother. I'm supposed to protect her, provide for her, keep her safe and innocent. Instead, she's out there selling the birthday present I saved for months to buy her, trying to save me from a situation I created by not being good enough at my job to keep it. That's not what happened, Marcus said urgently. Your termination wasn't about performance. It was part of a restructuring initiative that eliminated 15 positions in one day. Jennifer finished bitterly. I remember. I processed the paperwork for my own termination. Do you know what that's like, Mr. Chen? To have to print out your own pink slip, to read the cold corporate language describing how your position has been made redundant, to know that in 3 days you'll lose your paycheck and your health insurance. Marcus said nothing. What could he possibly say? Jennifer continued, her voice growing stronger even as her body remained weak. I was already sick. I knew something was wrong, but I was managing it. I was taking medication, watching my diet, seeing doctors when I could afford the co-pays. I thought if I could just hold on until Emma started school full-time, I could handle the flexible schedule and keep my benefits. But then, she laughed bitterly. Then efficiency experts decided that human resources could be streamlined, and suddenly I was standing in line at the unemployment office while my kidneys were failing. I didn't know, Marcus said, the excuse sounding pathetic even to his own ears. You didn't ask, Jennifer corrected sharply. I requested a meeting with you directly, do you remember? 3 weeks before the layoffs. I wanted to explain my situation, to request a temporary accommodation. Your assistant told me you were too busy. She suggested I speak with my supervisor instead, who then documented my request as inability to meet position requirements. The memory returned with crystalline clarity, his assistant mentioning something about an HR employee wanting a meeting. He had been preparing for a board presentation. He had told her to handle it through normal channels, efficient, effective, completely catastrophic. I remember, Marcus said quietly. I should have made time. Yes, Jennifer agreed simply. You should have, but you didn't, and here we are. So why are you really here, Mr. Chen? Guilt? Pity? Are you hoping I'll sign something that protects your company from liability? Her directness caught him off guard. The nurse had been right. Jennifer Rodriguez was sharp, even in her weakened state. Maybe especially in her weakened state, with nothing left to lose. I'm here, Marcus said slowly, choosing his words carefully. Because I want to help. Because I made a terrible mistake that has had terrible consequences. Because your daughter's face when she offered to sell her bicycle and do chores to save your life will haunt me for the rest of mine. Jennifer watched him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What kind of help are you offering? Full medical coverage, the best specialists. Private dialysis if needed until we can explore transplant options. And, he paused, knowing this next part might backfire. A formal review of your termination with full back pay and benefits restoration. In exchange for what? Jennifer asked immediately, suspicion clear in her voice. Nothing. No signing away your rights. No non-disclosure agreements. Just let me try to make this right. Jennifer stared at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. You can't make this right, Mr. Chen. You can't give me back the 6 months I lost. You can't erase the nights Emma found me passed out on the bathroom floor. You can't undo the trauma of an 8-year-old child having to grow up faster than any child should ever have to grow up. I know, Marcus said, the weight of it crushing. But I can make sure you don't die. I can make sure Emma doesn't lose her mother. And I can try, however imperfectly, to do better going forward. Jennifer closed her eyes, exhaustion evident in every line of her face. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. Emma told me once that she wanted to be like me when she grew up. Strong and smart and brave, she said. And I realized that she was wrong about all of it. I'm not strong. I'm falling apart. I'm not smart. I made every wrong decision possible. And I'm definitely not brave. I'm terrified every single day. You're all of those things, Marcus said firmly. You've survived 6 months without medical insurance, without proper treatment. You've raised a daughter who would sacrifice her most precious possession to save you. That's not weakness, Ms. Rodriguez. That's the opposite. A small, sad smile crossed Jennifer's face. You're very good with words, Mr. Chen. I suppose that's how you built your empire. But words are easy. Actions are harder. If you truly want to help, then help. But don't expect me to be grateful or forgiving. Some things can't be fixed with money, no matter how much you have. I understand, Marcus said, standing. I'll have Dr. Morrison contact you with a treatment plan, and I'll have my lawyer draw up the employment restoration papers. Take whatever time you need to review everything." He was almost to the door when Jennifer's voice stopped him. "Mr. Chen?" He turned back. "Emma asked me yesterday if I believed in miracles. I told her I believed in people doing the right thing when it mattered most. Don't make me a liar." Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He left the room with his portfolio unopened, his carefully prepared talking points unused. In the hallway, the nurse from earlier was updating a patient chart. "How did it go?" she asked without looking up. "Better than I deserved," Marcus admitted. The nurse glanced at him then, her expression softening slightly. "Jennifer Rodriguez is one of the strongest patients I've ever cared for, but even the strongest people break eventually. Whatever you're planning to do, Mr. Chen, do it fast. Her kidneys are failing more rapidly than we expected. She has weeks, maybe a month, before she'll need to be on the transplant list, and without insurance or private funding, she'll never make it high enough on that list to matter." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Weeks. Not months or years to make amends. Weeks to save a life he had helped destroy. "I'll have funds transferred today," he said. "Whatever she needs." "She needs more than money," the nurse said gently. "She needs hope. She needs to believe her daughter will be okay if something happens to her. Can you give her that?" Marcus thought of Emma's face, her desperate hope, her unshakable belief that good people existed. He thought of Jennifer's proud defiance even in the face of death. He thought of his own empty mansion and emptier life, built on decisions that had treated people as numbers on a spreadsheet. "I'm going to try," he said. As he walked back toward the elevator, Marcus pulled out his phone and began making calls. To his lawyer, to his accountant, to the head of nephrology at the state's best kidney transplant center, to his own physician, to begin the testing process to see if he might be a compatible donor. The last call was the hardest. He dialed his CFO, his right hand in building TechVision Solutions, his partner in every difficult business decision for the past decade. "Marcus, it's barely 7:30. What's wrong?" "David, I need you to pull the files on every employee we've terminated in the past 5 years. Every single one." There was a pause. That's going to be hundreds of files. What exactly are we looking for?" Marcus watched the elevator numbers climb as he descended. "We're looking for mistakes. We're looking for people who fell through the cracks. We're looking for the human cost of our efficiency." "Marcus, what's going on? This doesn't sound like you." "No," Marcus agreed quietly. "It doesn't, but it should have. It should have, all along." He ended the call as the elevator doors opened into the hospital lobby. Through the glass doors he could see the morning sun rising over the city he had conquered with ruthless ambition and cold calculation. But something had changed in the space of 12 hours, in the time between meeting a desperate little girl with a pink bicycle and confronting the woman whose life he had carelessly destroyed. Marcus Chen had always believed that success meant making hard choices without looking back. Now he understood that real strength meant looking back, seeing the damage, and having the courage to make it right, even if it meant tearing down everything he had built to do it, even if it meant facing truths about himself that he had spent a lifetime avoiding, even if it meant discovering that Jennifer Rodriguez's story had layers he hadn't yet begun to uncover, secrets that would challenge everything he thought he knew about guilt, redemption, and the impossible price of second chances. The automatic doors opened, and Marcus stepped into the morning light, carrying the weight of his past mistakes and the fragile hope of possible redemption. But in room 412, Jennifer Rodriguez lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she dared to believe that her daughter's desperate prayer had somehow been answered, and wondering if she had the strength, or the time, to learn the truth about the man who had just promised to save her life. 3 days later, Marcus found himself in a place he had never expected to be, sitting at a small plastic table in Jefferson Elementary School's cafeteria, surrounded by the chaos of afternoon dismissal. Children's laughter echoed off the walls, mixing with the sounds of backpacks being zipped and teachers calling out last-minute reminders. He had spent the past 72 hours in a whirlwind of activity, meetings with doctors, consultations with lawyers, and arrangements for Jennifer's immediate transfer to a private treatment facility. But none of that mattered as much as the promise he had made to Jennifer that morning in the hospital. "Emma needs stability," Jennifer had said, her voice weak but insistent. "She's been shuffled between neighbors and my sister who lives 2 hours away. She needs routine. She needs to know someone is paying attention to her life, not just her mother's medical bills." Marcus had suggested hiring a professional caregiver, but Jennifer had shut that down immediately. She doesn't need another stranger, Jennifer had said firmly. She needs to see that people, real people, not paid professionals, care about what happens to her. She needs to believe that the world isn't just a cruel place where mothers get sick and little girls have to sell their bicycles. So here he was, waiting outside Emma's third-grade classroom, feeling more nervous than he had before any board presentation or investor pitch. A teacher had informed him that Emma was being kept after class to finish a math assignment she had missed while staying with her aunt. Marcus suspected the real reason was that the school had been informed of his visit and wanted to supervise the situation carefully. The classroom door opened and Emma emerged, her purple backpack nearly as big as she was. She stopped dead when she saw Marcus, her eyes widening with recognition. "Mr. Chen," she exclaimed, then immediately looked worried. "Did something happen? Is my mom okay?" "Your mom is fine," Marcus assured her quickly, standing from the awkwardly small chair. "Actually, she's better than fine. She's at a new hospital with better doctors and better equipment. They started her treatment plan yesterday." Emma's face transformed with relief and joy. "Really? Really truly? She's getting better?" "She's getting the help she needs," Marcus said carefully. "It's going to take time, but yes, she's going to get better." To his complete shock, Emma launched herself at him again, wrapping her arms around his waist in a tight hug. Several passing parents stared, and Marcus felt his face heat with embarrassment and something else, something that felt suspiciously like the beginning of actual human connection. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," Emma mumbled into his suit jacket. "You really are a superhero. I told Mrs. Patterson that heroes are real, and she said I was being silly, but I was right." Marcus gently extracted himself from the hug, kneeling down to Emma's eye level. "I'm not a hero, Emma, but I am trying to help, and your mom asked me to do something important. She asked me to make sure you're okay while she's getting treatment. So I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner with me tonight. We could talk about how things are going at school, what you need, that kind of thing." Emma's expression became guarded, the sophisticated wariness of a child who had learned too young that adult promises often came with catches. "Where would we go?" "Wherever you want," Marcus said. "Your choice." Emma thought about this seriously, her small face scrunched in concentration. "Can we go to Rosie's Diner? They have really good grilled cheese. My mom used to take me there on special days before everything got hard." Marcus had never heard of Rosie's Diner, but he pulled out his phone and quickly found it. A family restaurant in a middle-income neighborhood, with reviews praising its comfort food and kid-friendly atmosphere. Not the kind of place he usually frequented, which probably meant it was exactly the right choice. "Rosie's Diner it is," he said. "Should I meet you there? Or would you like me to pick you up from wherever you're staying?" "I'm staying with Mrs. Chen again," Emma said. "She's nice, but she's really old and gets tired easy. I think I make her nervous because I ask too many questions." Marcus smiled despite himself. "I suspect you're very good at asking questions." "Mom always said curiosity is a superpower," Emma said proudly. "She said the best way to learn things is to ask why until you really understand." They arranged the details. Marcus would pick Emma up at 6 o'clock. Mrs. Chen, after a brief and suspicious interrogation, reluctantly agreed to the arrangement, making Marcus promise to have Emma home by 8:30 on a school night. Rosie's Diner was exactly the kind of establishment Marcus had spent his adult life avoiding. The booths had cracked red vinyl seats, the laminated menus were sticky, and the lighting was harsh fluorescent. But Emma's face lit up the moment they walked in, and an older waitress with bright red hair and a name tag reading Rosie herself immediately swept Emma into a hug. "Emma Rodriguez, baby girl, where have you been?" "I've been worried sick." Rosie's eyes welled with tears as she pulled back to look at Emma properly. "How's your mama doing?" "She's getting better," Emma announced proudly. "Mr. Chen is helping us. He's really rich and really nice, and he's making sure Mom gets the best doctors." Rosie's gaze shifted to Marcus with an expression that mixed gratitude with fierce protectiveness. "Is that so? Well, Mr. Chen, any friend of the Rodriguez family is a friend of mine. You take good care of these girls, you hear me?" "I'm trying," Marcus said, feeling the weight of that simple statement. They settled into a corner booth, and Emma ordered her grilled cheese with tomato soup for dipping, while Marcus ordered the same, figuring it was safest to follow her lead. As they waited for their food, Emma pulled out a worn notebook from her backpack. "I made a list," she announced, flipping to a page covered in careful handwriting, "of things I need to tell you about Mom and me. so you understand better. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. Okay, I'm listening. Emma cleared her throat with exaggerated seriousness. Number 1, Mom doesn't like to take charity. She'll say no to things even when she really needs them because she wants to maintain her dignity. That's what Aunt Rosa says. So if you want to help with stuff, you have to be sneaky about it or make it seem like it's not a big deal. Noted, Marcus said, pulling out his phone to take actual notes. What's number 2? Number 2, Mom has really bad days sometimes where she can't get out of bed and everything hurts. On those days, I usually make her toast and tea and read her stories. But now that she's in the hospital, maybe you could make sure the nurses know she likes her tea with honey, not sugar. Marcus typed this into his notes, his throat tight. What else? Number 3. I'm not supposed to know this, but we're really behind on rent. Mr. Kowalski, who owns our building, is nice, but he told Mom last month that he can't wait forever. I heard her crying about it when she thought I was asleep. Marcus made another note, this one followed by several action items. I'll handle it. What's number 4? Emma's face became more serious. Number 4 is the most important one. Mom always tells me that being poor doesn't mean being less than other people. She says we might not have a lot of money, but we have love and dignity and smarts. She says those things matter more than being rich. But, Emma's voice dropped to a whisper, sometimes I think having money would be better. Because if we had money, she wouldn't be sick. If we had money, I wouldn't have to sell my bike. If we had money, everything would be okay. The raw honesty in those words hit Marcus harder than any business failure ever had. Here was an 8-year-old child articulating the brutal mathematics of poverty in America. The equation where money literally equaled life or death, health or sickness, hope or despair. Your mom is right that being poor doesn't make you less than anyone else, Marcus said carefully. But she's also protecting you from a harder truth. Money shouldn't matter as much as it does, but in our system it does. And that's not fair. That's not right. And people like me, people who have more money than we could ever need, we have a responsibility to change that. Emma studied him with those 2 old eyes. Is that why you're helping us? Because of responsibility? Partly, Marcus admitted, but also because meeting you changed something in me. Made me see things I'd been avoiding looking at for a very long time. Their food arrived, and Emma dug into her grilled cheese with the enthusiasm of a child who had perhaps missed too many meals recently. Marcus found himself actually enjoying his own simple dinner, the comfort food living up to its name. Can I ask you a question? Emma said around a mouthful of sandwich, then immediately looked guilty. Sorry, Mom says talking with my mouth full is rude. It's okay, Marcus said. What's your question? Why did you fire my mom? The bluntness of it nearly made Marcus choke on his soup. Emma watched him with calm curiosity, waiting for an answer without judgment or accusation. I made a mistake, Marcus said finally. Your mom was going through something difficult, and she tried to tell people at my company, but that information never got to me. And when I was making decisions about who to keep and who to let go, I only looked at numbers on paper. I didn't think about the real people behind those numbers. I didn't think about mothers and daughters and lives being changed. I thought I was running a business efficiently, but what I was really doing was hurting people. Hurting your mom. Emma absorbed this solemnly. Mom always says everyone makes mistakes. She says the important thing is what you do after you realize you made a mistake. Are you trying to fix your mistake? Yes, Marcus said. I'm trying. But some mistakes can't be fully fixed. Sometimes all you can do is try to make things better going forward. That's okay, Emma said generously. Mom also says that trying counts for a lot. She says effort matters. They finished their dinner talking about easier topics. Emma's favorite subjects at school, science and art, her best friend Maya, who had moved away last year, her dreams of becoming a veterinarian someday. Marcus found himself genuinely interested, asking follow-up questions and learning about this small person who had inadvertently changed the course of his life. As they prepared to leave, Rosie approached their table with 2 slices of chocolate cake. On the house, she said firmly when Marcus tried to pay. For Emma, because I've missed seeing her sweet face. And for you, Mr. Chen, because anyone who makes this little girl smile deserves a piece of my chocolate cake. Back in the car, Emma was quiet for a while, watching the streetlights pass by. Then, as they neared Mrs. Chen's house, she spoke up. Mr. Chen, can I tell you something? Of course. I'm really scared my mom is going to die. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with the kind of fear that no child should have to carry. Marcus pulled the car to the curb, parking before responding. I know you are, he said gently, "and I can't promise you that everything will be perfect. But I can promise you that your mom is getting the best care possible. And I can promise you that you're not alone in this anymore. Whatever happens, you won't have to face it by yourself." Emma turned to look at him, tears shining in her eyes. "Do you promise? Like really, truly promise?" Because a lot of grown-ups say things they don't mean. Marcus thought about all the promises he had made in his business career, promises he had kept when convenient and broken when profitable. He thought about the promises implicit in employment, in health insurance, in the social contract between employers and employees. He thought about how easily he had broken those promises without a second thought. "I promise," he said. "Really, truly." Emma nodded, wiping her eyes. Then, in a small voice, "Will you come visit again? I know you're really busy with important CEO stuff, but maybe sometimes." "I'll come visit," Marcus said, "as often as you want." Emma smiled, and they drove the last block to Mrs. Chen's house in comfortable silence. As Emma climbed out of the car, she turned back with one more question. "Mr. Chen, do you think my mom will forgive you for firing her?" The question pierced straight through his carefully maintained composure. "I don't know, Emma. I hope so. But if she doesn't, I'll understand. Some things can't be forgiven, only learned from." "I think she will," Emma said confidently. "Mom's really good at forgiving. She says holding grudges takes too much energy, and she needs all her energy for getting better and taking care of me." Marcus watched Emma skip up the walkway to Mrs. Chen's door, her purple backpack bouncing with each step. She waved enthusiastically before going inside, and he waved back, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of purpose beyond profit, a connection beyond transaction, a responsibility beyond business. His phone buzzed with messages, 23 emails marked urgent, 3 missed calls from board members, a text from his CFO asking about the employee review project he had demanded. Marcus looked at all of it and made a decision. For the first time in his career, everything else could wait. Because somewhere in a private hospital room, Jennifer Rodriguez was fighting for her life. And in a modest duplex, Emma Rodriguez was going to bed, trusting that a stranger would keep his promises. He started the car and drove toward the hospital. There were conversations to be had, plans to be made, and amends to be attempted. But more than that, there was a growing certainty that his life had split into 2 distinct eras, before meeting Emma and her pink bicycle, and after. What Marcus didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that Jennifer Rodriguez was about to reveal something that would shake his newfound sense of purpose to its core, something that would challenge every assumption he had made about guilt, responsibility, and the true nature of the mistake he had made 6 months ago, something that would change everything. Again. 2 weeks into Jennifer's treatment, Marcus received a call that changed everything. He was in his office reviewing financial projections when his personal line rang, the number he had given to the hospital staff for emergencies only. "Mr. Chen, this is Dr. Sarah Morrison. We need you to come to the hospital immediately. It's about Jennifer Rodriguez." Marcus's blood ran cold. "What happened?" "Is she?" "She's stable, but there's been a development, a significant one. Please come as soon as possible. And Mr. Chen, come alone." The drive to the hospital felt endless. Marcus's mind raced through worst-case scenarios, each more terrible than the last. Had the treatment failed? Had her condition worsened? Was Emma about to lose her mother despite everything? Dr. Morrison met him outside Jennifer's room, her expression carefully neutral. She was a woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and the bearing of someone who had delivered both miraculous news and devastating diagnoses countless times. "Before you go in," she said quietly, "I need to tell you something. During our intake examination and medical history review, we discovered information that Jennifer had not disclosed to her previous doctors. Information that is medically relevant, and given your involvement, personally relevant as well." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What kind of information?" "Jennifer Rodriguez has a rare genetic kidney disorder. It's hereditary, passed from parent to child with a 50% probability. She knew about it before she became pregnant with Emma, but chose to have her daughter anyway." Dr. Morrison paused. "Emma has a 40% chance of developing the same condition by her teenage years." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Emma, bright, brave, innocent Emma, might face the same nightmare her mother was living through. Does Emma know? Not yet. Jennifer has been protecting her from that knowledge. "But that's not the information I needed to share with you." Dr. Morrison's expression became even more serious. Mr. Chen, during our genetic screening, we discovered something else. Jennifer's medical records from 9 years ago show that she worked for Tech Vision Solutions during her pregnancy. She had comprehensive health insurance through your company that covered high-risk pregnancy monitoring. Marcus nodded, confused about where this was leading. She gave birth prematurely at 28 weeks. There were complications, significant medical expenses beyond normal coverage limits. According to the records, your company's insurance provider denied certain claims, stating they exceeded policy maximums. Jennifer was left with over $60,000 in medical debt. Dr. Morrison's voice remained professionally neutral, but her eyes held judgment. That debt, combined with her ongoing medical needs, has defined her entire financial life since Emma's birth. The information crashed over Marcus in waves. Jennifer hadn't just been an employee he had fired. She had been someone his company had failed years before he even knew her name. The insurance policy he had personally approved, the coverage limits he had negotiated to save the company money, those decisions had condemned Jennifer to years of crushing debt before her own illness ever began. There's more, Dr. Morrison continued. Jennifer's premature labor was triggered by workplace stress. She was working 60-hour weeks because your company was understaffed during a major project launch. Her doctor had recommended reduced hours, but her supervisor told her the project was too critical. 3 weeks later, Emma was born fighting for her life in a NICU incubator. Marcus leaned against the wall, feeling physically ill. Every decision, every policy, every efficiency measure he had implemented had rippled outward in ways he had never imagined. He hadn't just fired Jennifer Rodriguez. He had been shaping her nightmare for 9 years. "Does Jennifer know that I'm aware of this?" he asked hoarsely. "She requested that I tell you. She said you deserve to know the full scope of what your company's decisions cost her." Dr. Morrison's expression softened slightly. "But she also said something else. She said that knowing what you know now, your response will show her whether you're actually trying to help or just trying to absolve your guilt. Can I see her, Doctor?" Morrison nodded and stepped aside. Marcus entered the room with his heart pounding, unsure what he would find. Jennifer was sitting up in bed, looking stronger than she had 2 weeks ago. The treatment was working, her color had improved, and her eyes were clearer. But those eyes held something else now, a challenge, a test, a demand for truth. "You know," she said simply. "I know," Marcus confirmed, sitting in the chair beside her bed. "Dr. Morrison told me everything. Good, because I'm done protecting you from the reality of what your business practices do to real people." Jennifer's voice was steady, controlled. "You want to help Emma and me? Fine. Here's what help actually looks like. You're going to review every single policy at Tech Vision Solutions that affects employee health, family leave, working conditions, and insurance coverage. You're going to fix the systems that broke me and countless others. And you're going to do it publicly, so other companies see that change is possible." Marcus absorbed this, recognizing it for what it was, not a request, but an ultimatum. "And if I do all of that, then maybe I'll believe you've actually learned something. That Emma's desperate act of love wasn't just a temporary wake-up call for a guilty CEO, but the beginning of real change." Jennifer's expression softened slightly. "Emma thinks you're a hero, Marcus. She talks about you constantly. Mr. Chen this, Mr. Chen that. She believes you're going to save me and make everything better." "I'm trying," Marcus said quietly. "Trying isn't enough." Jennifer's voice rose with sudden passion. "Don't you understand? There are thousands of people working for companies right now who are one medical crisis away from where I am, one denied claim away from bankruptcy, one terminated position away from losing everything. Your trying needs to become systemic change, or it means nothing." "You're right," Marcus said, the words coming easier than he expected. "You're absolutely right. I've been treating this like a personal redemption story, but it's bigger than that. It has to be." Jennifer studied him intently. "Prove it. Don't just pay for my treatment and think you've evened the scales. Use your position, your wealth, your influence to make sure no other mother has to choose between working herself to death and providing for her child. Make sure no other little girl has to sell her bicycle to save her mother's life." "I will," Marcus promised. "I'll start with Tech Vision and expand from there. I'll make it my life's work if I have to." "Good," Jennifer said. Then her expression shifted to something more vulnerable. "Because Emma is going to need someone like you in her life. Even if I survive this, and that's still a big if, I'll need a kidney transplant eventually. The waiting lists are years long, and if I don't make it," her voice broke, "if I don't make it, she'll need more than money. She'll need someone who understands why I fought so hard. Someone who will make sure she never forgets that her worth isn't measured by her bank account. The implication hung heavy in the air. Jennifer was asking Marcus to be more than a benefactor. She was asking him to be a guardian, a mentor, a promise of continuity if the worst happened. "I'll be there for her," Marcus said. "Whatever she needs, for as long as she needs it." Jennifer nodded slowly, tears forming. "Then I have one more thing to tell you. Something I've never told anyone except my sister." She took a shaky breath. "Emma's father, he was a co-worker at TechVision. We had a brief relationship 9 years ago. When I got pregnant, he made it very clear he wanted nothing to do with a child. He transferred to another department and pretended I didn't exist." Marcus felt his chest tighten. Who was he? It doesn't matter now. He left the company 5 years ago. But what matters is that Emma has never had a father figure. She's never had a man in her life who showed up, who kept promises, who treated her like she mattered. Jennifer's eyes locked onto his. "You're the first man who's ever done that for her." Don't underestimate what that means to an 8-year-old girl who's spent her whole life watching other kids get picked up by their dads while she waits alone. The weight of that responsibility settled onto Marcus's shoulders like a physical thing. Emma wasn't just a child he was helping. She was a little girl who had never known what it felt like to have someone stay. "I won't let her down," Marcus said. "See that you don't," Jennifer replied. "Because if you do, if you get bored with playing hero and disappear back to your mansion and your CEO life, it will break her, and I will haunt you from whatever comes after this." Despite the seriousness of the conversation, Marcus found himself almost smiling. Duly noted. They sat in silence for a moment, the beeping of medical equipment providing a steady rhythm. Then Jennifer spoke again, her voice softer. "Thank you, Marcus, for everything you've done, for everything you're going to do, and for giving my daughter something I never could. Hope that the world has good people in it." Marcus left the hospital an hour later with a notebook full of action items and a heart full of determination. Jennifer had given him a roadmap: systemic change, policy reform, public accountability. It would take years, cost millions, and probably destroy some of his business relationships. He couldn't wait to get started. 6 weeks after Emma sold her bicycle, Marcus stood in the auditorium of TechVision Solutions headquarters, facing 300 employees. The presentation behind him showed detailed proposals for comprehensive policy changes: expanded health coverage, protected family leave, mandatory workload reviews, mental health support, and a whistleblower system for reporting dangerous working conditions. His CFO had called the proposals business suicide. His board had threatened to remove him as CEO. His competitors were already circling, sensing weakness, preparing to poach top talent with promises of better compensation and fewer distractions. Marcus didn't care. 68 days ago, he began, his voice carrying through the silent auditorium. "I met an 8-year-old girl who was trying to sell her bicycle to save her mother's life. Her mother, Jennifer Rodriguez, was someone I had fired 6 months earlier during a restructuring initiative. I made that decision in approximately 30 seconds, based entirely on performance metrics and budget projections." He paused, letting the information sink in. Faces in the audience shifted, some confused, some curious, many guarded. What I didn't know was that Jennifer Rodriguez had been struggling with a serious illness. What I didn't know was that our company's insurance policies had left her with crushing medical debt years before I even fired her. What I didn't know was that our workplace practices had contributed to complications during her pregnancy that nearly killed both her and her daughter. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Marcus saw several people pull out their phones, already preparing to share this on social media. Good. That was exactly what needed to happen. I didn't know these things because I didn't care enough to know them. I built this company on efficiency, innovation, and ruthless focus on results. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that the people who work here aren't resources to be managed. They're human beings with lives, families, struggles, and dreams beyond these walls. He clicked to the next slide, showing Emma's handwritten sign: "Pink bike for sale, $500, please help my mom." This is what my decisions created. An 8-year-old child so desperate to save her dying mother that she was willing to sacrifice her most precious possession. And the worst part? She's not alone. There are probably dozens, maybe hundreds of people in this room right now who are one crisis away from similar desperation. Marcus saw heads nodding, eyes glistening. One woman in the third row was openly crying. "So here's what we're going to do. Every policy change on these slides will be implemented within 90 days. Every employee will receive a comprehensive benefits review, And we're establishing a $5 million emergency fund for employees facing medical or family crises. No questions asked, no means testing, no bureaucratic hoops. Just help when it's needed most. The auditorium erupted, not in applause, but in shocked conversation. Marcus raised his hand for silence. I know what you're thinking. This is expensive. This will hurt our profit margins. This might make us less competitive. And you're right about all of that. But I'd rather run a less profitable company that treats people with dignity than build another billion-dollar empire on the broken lives of my employees. This time the applause came. Slowly at first, then building into something overwhelming. People stood, some cheering, others wiping away tears. Marcus saw his CFO in the back row, shaking his head but clapping nonetheless. After the presentation, dozens of employees approached Marcus with their own stories. A man whose wife had cancer, a woman caring for her elderly parents, a young father whose son had special needs. Each story was a variation on Jennifer's nightmare. Good people trying to survive in a system that punished vulnerability and rewarded only strength. Marcus listened to every story, took notes on every situation, made promises he fully intended to keep, and with each conversation his resolve strengthened. This wasn't just about Jennifer and Emma anymore. This was about building something better. That evening, Marcus picked Emma up from school as he had every Tuesday and Thursday for the past month. Their routine had become familiar. Dinner at Rosie's, homework help, stories about her day, then a visit to see Jennifer at the hospital. Emma had started calling him Mr. Marcus instead of Mr. Chen, which she said was more friendly. Mom says you did something really big at work today, Emma said as they drove toward the hospital. She said you're going to help lots of families like ours. I'm going to try, Marcus said, but it was your mom's idea. She's the one who told me what needed to change. Emma was quiet for a moment, then, Mr. Marcus, can I ask you something? Always. If my mom doesn't get better, if she doesn't make it, what happens to me? The question hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He carefully pulled the car into a parking lot before responding, needing to give this conversation his full attention. Why are you asking that, Emma? Because I heard the doctors talking when they thought I wasn't listening. They said Mom needs a transplant soon, or her body will stop working. And I know transplants are hard to get. Emma's voice remained remarkably steady, the tone of a child who had learned to face terrible truths directly. So I need to know. Where will I go if my mom dies? Marcus turned in his seat to face her fully. First, your mom is fighting really hard, and we're doing everything possible to find her a donor kidney. But second, and I want you to hear this clearly, you will never be alone. Your mom and I have talked about this, and if anything happens to her, I will make sure you're taken care of. You'll always have a home, always have what you need, always have someone who shows up for you. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Do you promise? Really, truly? I promise, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Really, truly. Emma unbuckled her seatbelt and climbed over the center console to hug him fiercely. Marcus held her, the small person who had accidentally saved him from a life of empty success, and made a silent vow that he would never let her down. When they arrived at the hospital, Jennifer was waiting with news that changed everything. They found a donor, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. A perfect match. Someone who signed up as a donor years ago and just recently passed away. They're scheduling the transplant for next week. Emma screamed with joy and launched herself at her mother. Marcus felt his knees go weak with relief, sinking into the nearest chair. Jennifer caught his eye over Emma's shoulder, her expression mixing hope with fear. There are risks, she said softly. The surgery could fail. My body could reject the kidney. There are no guarantees. But there's a chance, Marcus said. A real chance. Yes, Jennifer agreed. A real chance. That night, after Emma had fallen asleep in the hospital chair, Marcus and Jennifer talked about contingency plans, legal guardianship papers, and the realistic possibilities of both success and failure. It was the hardest conversation Marcus had ever had, planning for the potential death of a woman who had somehow become central to his transformed worldview. If I don't make it, Jennifer said, I need you to tell Emma something. Tell her that she was worth every sacrifice, that being her mother was the greatest privilege of my life, and that she should never feel guilty about my choices. You're going to tell her that yourself, Marcus said firmly. After the surgery, after recovery, you're going to live to see her graduate high school and college and do all the amazing things she's going to do. Jennifer smiled sadly. I hope so, but hope isn't always enough. It's a start. Marcus countered. And sometimes a start is all we need. The surgery was scheduled for dawn. Marcus arrived at the hospital at 5 a.m. to find Emma already awake, sitting beside her mother's bed in the pre-op area. Jennifer looked pale but determined, her hand clasping Emma's with fierce intensity. "I'm scared, Mom," Emma whispered. "Me too, baby," Jennifer admitted. "But being scared doesn't mean being weak. It means being brave enough to face what scares us." Marcus watched from the doorway as mother and daughter said their temporary goodbyes, the possibility of permanent goodbye hanging unspoken in the air. When the medical team came to wheel Jennifer to surgery, Emma clung to her mother's hand until the last possible moment. The next 8 hours were the longest of Marcus's life. He and Emma waited in a private room the hospital had provided, attempting to distract themselves with games, books, and stories. Emma was remarkably composed until about hour 5, when she broke down completely, terrified that she had hugged her mother for the last time. Marcus held her while she cried, making no attempt to offer false reassurance or empty platitudes. Sometimes the only comfort was being present in the fear. "Doctor." Morrison finally appeared at 2:47 p.m., still in her surgical scrubs. Her face revealed nothing as she approached. "The surgery was successful," she said, and Emma burst into tears again, this time of relief. "The new kidney has begun functioning, and Jennifer tolerated the procedure well. She's in recovery now. The next 72 hours are critical for watching for rejection signs, but I'm cautiously optimistic." Emma wanted to see her mother immediately, but had to wait until Jennifer was moved to the ICU. When they finally entered her room, Jennifer was barely conscious, her eyes fluttering open to find Emma's face. "Hey, baby girl," she whispered. "Hey, Mom," Emma sobbed. "You did it. You're going to be okay." "Going to try," Jennifer managed. Her eyes found Marcus standing behind Emma. "Thank you. For everything. For being here. For keeping your promises." Over the next 3 days, Marcus barely left the hospital. He fielded work calls from the ICU waiting room, reviewed documents on his laptop while Emma did homework beside him, and brought Rosie's grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner every evening. His board left increasingly urgent messages. His CFO sent emails with subject lines like "urgent investor concerns" and "stock price impact." Marcus ignored them all. On the 4th day, Jennifer's doctors confirmed what everyone had been hoping. Her body was accepting the new kidney. She would need months of recovery, immunosuppressant medications for life, and regular monitoring, but she was going to live. Marcus walked into her hospital room that afternoon to find Jennifer sitting up, looking more like herself than he'd seen in months. Emma was showing her a science project she'd completed, chattering excitedly about photosynthesis. "Mr. Marcus," Emma called out. "Mom says she might be able to come home in 2 weeks." "That's amazing news," Marcus said, genuinely thrilled. Jennifer gestured for Emma to give them a moment alone. Emma skipped off to the hospital cafeteria with a nurse who had become her friend. "I need to tell you something," Jennifer said once they were alone. "Something I should have told you weeks ago." Marcus felt his stomach clench with familiar dread. "What is it?" "When I worked for TechVision 9 years ago, there was a young executive who was kind to me during my difficult pregnancy. He was one of the few people who checked on me, who made sure I had what I needed. He was working his way up in the company, brilliant and ambitious, but he always had time for the employees everyone else overlooked." Jennifer's eyes held his. His name was David Winters. Marcus's world tilted. David Winters, his CFO, his right hand, the man who had built TechVision beside him for the past decade. "David is Emma's father?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "No," Jennifer said. "David was engaged to someone else, happily planning his wedding. Emma's father was someone different, someone who wanted nothing to do with us. But David was the one who helped me through that time. And when you fired me 6 months ago, I wanted to reach out to him, to ask for help, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Too much pride, too much shame." Marcus sat down heavily. "Does David know about you being in the hospital? About any of this?" "No, and I don't want him to know. He has his own life now, his own family. I'm telling you this because you need to understand something. Good people existed in your company all along. David implemented wellness programs you didn't even notice. He fought for better healthcare coverage that you vetoed in budget meetings. He tried to create the systems I'm asking you to build now, and you dismissed them as too expensive." The words struck home with devastating accuracy. Marcus remembered those meetings, David's proposals, his own impatient rejections. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to know that you weren't alone in building TechVision's culture. Some people were trying to make it better. You just weren't listening. Jennifer's voice softened. But you're listening now. That matters. Change matters. And maybe, you can help people like David who have been fighting this fight all along. Marcus nodded slowly, his mind reeling with implications. I'll talk to him. Partner with him instead of overruling him. Good, Jennifer said, because Emma is going to need a village. And that village includes people who were trying to help all along. That evening, Marcus sat with Emma in the hospital cafeteria, sharing French fries and chocolate milk. Mr. Marcus? Emma asked. Can I tell you a secret? Always. I don't miss my pink bicycle as much as I thought I would, because now I have something better. What's that? Emma looked up at him with a smile that could light the darkest room. I have you, and you show up. That's better than any bike. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. You're pretty special too, Emma Rodriguez. 2 months later, Jennifer was released from the hospital with strict instructions but genuine hope. Marcus had arranged for her to stay in a fully accessible apartment near excellent medical facilities, all expenses covered. Emma's new school was 3 blocks away, one of the best in the district. On Jennifer's first day home, Marcus brought dinner from Rosie's Diner for a celebration. As they sat around the small dining table, Marcus, Jennifer, Emma, and Aunt Rosa, who had driven in for the occasion, Emma raised her juice box in a toast. To Mr. Marcus, she said, the hero who saved my mom. To Jennifer, Marcus countered, the woman who saved me. They clinked juice boxes and glasses, laughing at the absurdity and beauty of how their lives had intertwined. Outside, a pink bicycle with streamers and a basket sat on the porch, a gift from Marcus to replace the one Emma had been willing to sacrifice, but Emma rarely rode it anymore. She preferred walking to Marcus's house for their weekly dinners, or riding in his car to volunteer events they now attended together. Fundraisers for medical debt relief, awareness campaigns for kidney disease, policy advocacy meetings where an 8-year-old girl and a reformed CEO told their story to anyone who would listen. TechVision Solutions' stock price had dropped 15% since Marcus's reforms. 3 board members had resigned. Competitors were circling. Marcus had never been happier, because he had learned what Jennifer and Emma had known all along, that success measured by profit margins meant nothing compared to success measured by lives improved, dignity restored, and promises kept. And every time Emma called him Mr. Marcus with that bright smile, every time Jennifer thanked him for showing up, every time an employee shared how the new policies had saved their family, Marcus Chen knew he had finally found what had been missing from his perfect empty life: purpose, connection, redemption, and a pink bicycle that served as a permanent reminder of the day an 8-year-old girl changed everything. The end.